Hello, beautiful community. All this madness with Trump and Putin and all the baddies, can it be put back into the box? Or are these people inevitably going to trash our democracies and trash our international system into smithereens? The thought that really I want to emphasize that we really are bad at balancing ourselves into is the following thought. The river current is driving us in a certain direction. That does not mean that a mile down the line we're going to fly off a cliff in a waterfall, or that we're going to be obliterated against the rocks. What we've got in our culture that's actually stopping us from being politically effective is kind of two thoughts. One is, yeah, we're inevitably going to fly off a mile from now, and it's going to end in a sour way, inevitably. Or the current really isn't there. Some people are debating whether it's there or not, but it's actually not there because it's just all open-ended. It's here now, but 50 meters down the river, the current might be gone. And so there's no point over analyzing it. Both positions are, I don't care what they are, to be honest, right? Epistemically, that's not important. They're politically disastrous. So let's delve into them a little bit. And I'm doing that now because when I am more volatile and sick, it's a great opportunity to do some bigger picture grounding chats. But I do look forward to getting into the minutiae of the latest sort of weekly politics with you, if and when health allows. I was just reminded of that by the latest video from Anders Bak-Nielsen about why Putin's fighting the defensive war. Always, as always, a highly recommended analysis. Now, there's a tendency in our culture to think that things are inevitable politically, or that things are completely open-ended politically. The inevitable thought sometimes in pockets of our culture takes a positive form. For instance, techno-futurism is popular. It's actually a little bit inserted into the Trump administration. And it's a utopia that will be obliterated by the 21st century. My mic is on. The way 20th century utopias were obliterated by history. But most of our thinking on the it's inevitable line is actually despairing. It basically is a corrosive, depoliticized, consumerist pessimism about politics. Basically says our politics just can't answer to the challenges that we face. And the human content of our politics is increasingly degenerating. Politicians are increasingly of low quality and are increasingly of mixed motivation or increasingly of poor, malign motivation. Unfortunately, while not true, this contains a significant degree of truth. The quality is going down of our politicians, and the quality of the motivation of our politicians is going down. Yes, there were appalling misdeeds and misbehaviors 50 years ago and 150 years ago, even more so then. But something is happening. You know that something is happening. You know you're getting more entrepreneurs just exploiting, the waves of public opinion. You know you're getting more post-truth populists. You can see that. And I think that's leading people to the corrosive view, as I think an under-supported view, that politics is cooked, politics is done, it just can't solve anything. And my answer to that is always chin up. You are going to have to go with the best game in town. And the best game in town is that we get more out of our political institutions than we're getting now. And perhaps we supplement our political institutions with some democratic regeneration. But without our political institutions, we ain't going to have anything. Right? Once you lose independent judiciary, a free media, the room for maneuver is limited, right? The room for maneuver in Hungary today is limited. So our institutions are the best game in town, and even when the odds are against them getting the result we want, they're the best bet, and we should go all in on them. Which could mean transforming them, reforming them, and so on, inserting new human content into them. That's all possible. So there's this despairing idea that it's all inevitable and that we're just going to fall off a mile from now, off the cliff, on the waterfall, and that's it. Then there is another idea, and that idea says it's all open-ended. And the genesis of that idea in our culture is scientistic. We here in the chat community, on the main channel, and on the philosophy channel, everywhere, we're in love with a naturalistic worldview. We're in love with science. We're in love with scientific explanation. What we're not in love with is with the prejudicial thought that non-scientific explanation should take the form of scientific explanation. That's scientism. Scientism is anti-science because it says that things that aren't science should look like science. And so, because we live in a scientistic culture, there's a tendency to think, well, if matters of fact and scientific truths don't determine the direction of the social world, it's just undetermined. But what that leaves out are all of the historical tendencies that are generated by various political, social, economic forces. It's that concept of a tendency that's very important for us to admit. I get so many messages, pretty much several a week, just on the topic of how can we possibly know that our democracies are in decline, because we simply can't predict what's going to happen 5 years from now, because it's open-ended. And that's an elementary misunderstanding, not of the state of our democracies, although it's that too, but of social explanation itself, right? You're not allowing for the possibility of tendencies that are entrenched, that are drawing you in a particular direction. Now, can you overwhelm and, if you like, knock out a tendency completely? The answer is typically no, unless utterly exceptional things happen, right? So some kind of radical, unforeseen eventualities, from wars to pandemics to alien invasion, could conceivably defeat a tendency like democratic decline. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we are going to have to bite bits out of that tendency, deflect that tendency until we get to a place where we haven't defeated it. It's still pulling us down the river, but we avoid smithereens on the rocks and we avoid collapse on the waterfall a mile away. What does that mean in concrete terms, in practice? It means that when Biden steps down and Kamala Harris takes over, it was extremely difficult for Kamala to win, but possible. Hard, but possible. Now you might say it's impossible in the sense that if Kamala were up to winning, this would mean that the Democratic Party would have to be in slightly different shape. And if it were in slightly different shape of the kind required for Kamala to win, then that shape would have probably prevented the Democrats from losing to Trump in the first place in 2016. That's a plausible argument. But the reality is, even in an age of democratic decline, even in a moment when a president, out of infatuation with consciousness of his own powers and infatuation with power, wanted to stay rather than go, stayed too late, even in a situation like that, even a candidate who was, if you like, a sort of political cipher, an empty candidate, could have been made to win. Would have been really difficult, but it was doable. So don't confuse impossible and hard. Don't confuse a debate about whether we can stop the current taking us down the river, which we can't, with a debate about whether we're going to fall off the waterfall and smithereen ourselves on the rocks, right? Lucidly make these differentiations, and you will become less sort of navel-gazy in the way you think about politics. You'll become more external, more grounded. It's unsettling too, to face these difficult realities, not just about our world, but these conceptual realities about the fact that we can control a lot, but that we're also powerless. Is a lot we can't control in politics. And there isn't a natural place to land this. So let's land this right now and look forward, hopefully, to more concrete conversations in the days to come. Lots of love.